People better get us now. That's all. You better get us now.
He's right.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the Yukon Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just wanted to come up to say how thankful we are for all of you. We appreciate all of your support. We're proud to say we're the only daily podcast covering the UConn men's and women's basketball, the hoops capital of the world. And we're thrilled to bring you that coverage because you deserve it. So to show that gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to UConn games. Just sent that monthly donation, I believe, about a week ago, and I hope Kevin is able to use that. Kevin Solomon and the boys there. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. All right, let's bring to the program. I wish we had Dan Hurley here, but we have Dan Meehan, second best in that regard. Dan, I played Coach Hurley's now famous Better Get Us Now because not because it's fun to do, because anytime I want to get fired up, I listen to that. But what I will say is in two regards. People better get us now because Liam McNeeley is close, and also because we have 3 McDonald's All-Americans and what looks like a complete sleeper wild card in Jacob Furphy as well. So an absolute monster class. We have a big show today. Really excited to have you come on. Talk to me about that. Let's start with the present, right? UConn's number 25 in the country. They hung on to the AP poll. I don't really care about the AP poll, but it is what it is. A lot of seeing them all over the place in bracketology from 6 all the way to 11. Give me your perspective on where this team is at right now.
Yeah, first and foremost, my favorite clip of all time. It's been pinned to the top of my Twitter feed for 2 years now. But yeah, the current team, they stay by the grace of God, by the hair of their you-know-what, in the top 25 in the AP poll. 36, I believe, 35, 36 today in Ken Palm. Defensive rating in the 130s. They're the only team in the top 50 of all Ken Palm teams that has a defensive rating over 100. So say what you want about the team. Evan Mia, he's been on the show before, has their defense ranked in the top 80. So you can kind of take that for what you want. I'm going to look on the bright side and look at Evan's numbers there.
We'll go with Evan's numbers.
Yeah, I think I looked about an hour ago. Joe Lenardi every Tuesday releases his kind of mock bracketology where he thinks things are going to line up. He's got UConn as he doesn't even list the 5 seeds or 6 seeds. Yep. So we can kind of look through the tea leaves there. He's probably got UConn as a 7 right now. Some of the wins early in the season don't look as sexy as they do. Don't look as good today as they did at the time. Can't change that, but they've just got to, take care of their own destiny. They just got to win some games, and looking forward to tomorrow against DePaul at the XL Center. Must-win game.
Lenardi's got UConn in the East region in Raleigh playing St. Mary's as an 8 seed. And who do you think is opposing them in the East region if they were to win that game?
Yeah, I think
the Duke Blue Devils. So that would certainly be a draw. I mean, I wouldn't mind them being in Raleigh because it's pretty damn close to me. I think it would suck for them to be an 8 seed, but and I, honestly, outside of Auburn and maybe Iowa State, and I'm not saying this because I'm a Duke hater, because Duke looks good. They've struggled their last 2 games against. Yep. I wouldn't say NC State's a mediocre team. Wake Forest is it should be an NCAA tournament team. They probably should have won that game. They have some players, right? And I'm biased there because Steve Forbes is a buddy, but at the same time, I'm not afraid of any. Just get in. UConn gets into the tournament if they get healthy. We've seen them do it before as a 7 seed, and we all know the history. 4 seed, 3 seed, 2 seed, 1 seed. They've done it in 5 different slots, probably more than anybody ever. So that doesn't bother me. I think my biggest issue is it's kind of like it runs the gamut, right? I've seen them high as 10. I've seen them as low as 6. if the Big East is, and this, I'll take this to more of a Big East versus UConn centric. If the Big East is the fourth best team in college, fourth best conference in college basketball, like by the RPI numbers have said, then why is the ACC getting more teams than them if they're the fifth best? That I would love to like either ask Evan. I have a good friend, Rocco. What's Rocco's last name? Can't think of it right off the top of my head. But he's a bracketologist, and he works a little bit for the Field of 68, our good friends over there. And he has his own deal, and he has UConn as low as 10. So I'm just curious what everyone's formula is, and if one conference is higher than the other, why is more conferences getting love if the Big East is actually the fourth best conference in the league?
I've got to dive more into this, but it's been something that a lot of people have been talking about in the last few weeks, just the power of the SEC. Mike Krzyzewski went on his own podcast in the last few days and talked about UConn joining the ACC to form a power basketball conference and bring in UConn's football prowess to try to bolster some of that the lust that the ACC has lost. But these conferences are just getting so big. At some point, like I think on some of the bracketologists, like Lenardi had 13 SEC teams of their 18-team conference. It's like the Big 12 was guilty of this last year, just kind of stacking in the metrics and stacking wins in the non-conference schedule. But the SEC, some of those teams have played some of the toughest non-conference schedules of anyone in the country this year. So I'm not going to be one of those people that picks on the SEC for that. But there's so many teams in these power conferences now. There's going to be just as many bad teams in them, so to speak, as good teams. So it's like you can still bottom feed a little bit and pick on some of these lesser teams in your own conference, despite having some of the top heavy teams in the country. Make no mistake about it. Like the SEC should draw 10 teams in the tournament. We'll see how they fare. Don't get me wrong, but I think in years past where the Big East was strong throughout, you maybe had 7, 8, 9 really strong teams, but that there's only 11 now, and it's top heavy, more so than it has been in the last few years. And for the first time, I don't think the Big East is doing itself any favors. One. And two, I don't know if they're going to get if in years past, if a team was on the bubble, I've seen in the last few weeks, they're a 3-team conference. Then they went to a 4. And even a week ago, some team thought bracketologists thought the Big East might be a 5-bid conference. I think that will come back down, and I think they'll end at 4 with either Creighton or UConn, maybe Xavier on the cut line. We'll see where things shake out. But I don't know if they're going to get the nod this year if they have a team on the bubble.
No, you're spot on. So right now, Lenardi's usually the top one, but the guy I was talking about, Rocco Miller. If you don't know who he is, go to his Twitter. It's at Rocco Miller 8. Good dude. He's been on the pod. He was on the pod last year before the tournament to kind of talk about all things, NCAA tournament related. UConn, obviously. I think we were going up against San Diego State, so he kind of gave us a little bit of color on them on their team. But he does a really great job. I've known him for a few years now. He's got UConn as a 10 seed, but he's usually pretty damn spot on. So, and he's one of these guys who's like the quote unquote second tier bracketologist. And I mean that with no disrespect. His website is bracketeer.org. Go check that out. And you can check him out on Twitter as well. So it really will it's just going to matter what happens down the stretch. And the clip of Better Get Us Now is really indicative of, if there's still been a lot of ifs this year with UConn. If this person steps up, if this person stays healthy, if this person comes back. So when they have media availability tonight in the XL Center around 5:30, if we hear Liam McNeeley is back for the DePaul game, I think that bodes well for UConn to win go on a little bit of a run here. If he is still out and then he has to make his return potentially against Marquette on the road, that to me is going to signal to more hard times for UConn in the next few games, where he's not going to be kind of in game. He's not going to be in game shape anyway. But at least if you give a game under his belt, he could gut out a potential game against Marquette. So I don't know how you feel about that. So like, there's still a lot of there's just too much up in the air to make it definitive. I think he'll play against DePaul tomorrow. What are your thoughts?
If I had to guess, I actually think Liam is going to miss one more game. I think it'll be an interesting little bookend. He ends up getting hurt against DePaul in the first matchup against them. And then this could be the last kind of contest that he misses before hopefully getting back at Marquette. UConn needs to start building the resume. Like you said, there's some ifs. There are still some very bleak
Big
ifs left in this season if they don't take care of business the rest of the way. You've got 5 games against Marquette, St. John's, and still have to go to Creighton. So UConn, it's fun for us fans. You're coming up for the big game, $2 beers at Gamble on February 7th for St. John's. That's going to be a fun one. These games are going to be awesome for us as fans, as spectators, but we're going to get our money's worth here, and we need Liam McNeeley for every single one of those games.
I'm hoping that I just hope that this doesn't end up kind of spiraling into this team loses games that they shouldn't, like against tomorrow.
Make no mistake about it. To everyone at home listening, this team can still miss the tournament.
That's what I was about to say.
That
that's
can
what I was
happen.
about to say. If right now if Joe Lunardi thinks you're generously giving you an 8 seed, and guys like my friend Rocco who kind of don't have the same platform, so he's probably just going strictly by the numbers and has zero like rooting interest, and he slots UConn as a 10, you're like 2 losses away from being on the bubble easily. And
Lunardi's bracketology is not gospel. He's been wrong in years past.
It's not.
It's like not a Todd McShay and Mel Kiper pre-draft thing. Like
Jerry Palm. Yeah. You know, Jerry Palm does the CBS one. I know Mike DeCourcy does the Fox Sports. Mike, I'm surprised that Mike does the bracketology on Fox Sports, because he's been such a journalist. Like, he's never really been like a stats nerd guy. So that's always an interesting one for me. But you're 1,000% right. If they lose, especially if they win against DePaul and then they lose to like Marquette and St. John's back to back, we're like teetering on missing the tournament. So, but it's not all bad news, guys, because the better get us now also leads to next year. We got some studs coming in. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. This message is from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes, we're waiting and wondering and worrying if we're going to get any money back or if we have to own. Oh, and then waiting and wondering and worrying some more. Now taxes is matched with TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates in their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All with getting the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. All right, we're back on Locked On UConn. Remember,
people better get us now. That's all. You better get us now.
Because it's coming.
It's coming. And here's the deal. It's coming in the shape of 3 McDonald's All-Americans. Even if they didn't make the McDonald's All-Americans team, you have to look at this incoming class of Braylon Mullins, Darius Adams, Eric Ryba, and Jacob Furphy, who just scored 41 points in an under 20 game for Australia. I think it was yesterday. So, and the ironic thing about that is, we had Adam Finkelstein, who interviewed Dan Hurley over last week, and he's the director of scouting at 247 Sports. Phenomenal job he does there with getting the scouting for high school and college and transfer portal and all that. So I asked him about all these guys, and I'm going to tell you what he said. But what he did say about Jacob is he doesn't know, because he was just like, he's such a wild card. He's like, he's honestly the most intriguing of the bunch, because they already know what Eric is, that he's a very skilled big, that he's going to have to work on his defensive side. They already know what Darius is. He's trying to become more of a combo guard versus just a shooter, because he's coming in with Braylon, who is an absolute walking bucket. And so these are all things that Adam was saying. And I still think what's crazy is Furphy, to me, is the most intriguing of them all. Like, Braylon's my quote unquote favorite. I don't know if you can have a favorite, because I thought Eric was great on the interview too, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal player. It's just one of those things, man. Like, I think Furphy's going to be kind of the wild card. And the one last thing I'll say, and then I'll let you jump in here, is Adam did say that even though he's like a big kid, 6'6", 6'7", 220, He said he doesn't know if he's a good 220. Like Danny's going to have to get him into some shape. So it's all good stuff though. Like these are all like, I think everyone's got to be super excited about this incoming class.
Yeah, these guys are all studs, all four of them. This is a weighty class. I think as it stands today, I think Arkansas crept up, had one more commit, but they've got three. It doesn't matter what 24/7 says. These three All-Americans are all three of them are 5-star recruits.
Yeah.
All in the top 30. They didn't start there, but they're going to finish there. Braylon's up to 13th nationally, which is just insane. He's scoring 36 a game on like 70, 50, 90 splits. Nobody even shoots 40% from three in high school. Never mind 50. Walking bucket, like you said. Eric's going to be skilled as hell. He can do everything on the court. Darius Adams, awesome 6'5" combo guard, can score, can dish. Reminds me of a young Lonzo Ball at UCLA. Like, the kid's a stud. And Furphy is just a total wild card. He plays in the international game from Australia. They call him Tazzy. He's a dog, like Hurley said. He's top 100. I think he crept around he's like top 90 now in the top 100 on 24/7. Like, he plays in the NBA Academy. He could be the most quote unquote NBA ready of the four. We won't know until he gets to campus. He's 220 pounds. Like, some of these guys need to fill out before they're still teenagers, 17, 18 years old. Before they get to stores, they need to put on some weight. But Furphy's he's sturdy. Like, he's got an NBA body as it is today. We'll see what happens when they get in shape. But yeah, weighty class. I think on 24/7 they're third in the composite rankings behind Duke and Arkansas. But either way, one of the most exciting classes UConn's ever seen.
Yeah, and to further talk about some Adams' expertise and talking about this class, he was like, I said, what can we expect from them? And he essentially told me Monday that he thinks Braylon is going to start right away, or that's the potential. He thinks that Darius is probably the one that needs the most work in terms of, because he's still like transitioning some of his game into what he wants to be at the next level and then further. And then he said, Eric, he said, I'm not sure. Like, I think there's a possibility that where he could potentially fight for a starting spot, but knowing Danny and knowing him for years, he's probably going to have him come off the bench because he still needs to, work on getting some good weight on him, but also, making an impact on the defensive side. But he did say they all are going to fit in perfectly with what Danny does from an offensive schematic perspective, with how much action they run, how much dribble handoff, how many screens, the freedom of movement. So I think that's going to be what's exciting for UConn fans, because I think we're still seeing the efficiency with the offense, but we're not seeing the finishes that we saw the last few years where, guys wide open for three, and he makes it like almost automatic with the past couple of years. This team that's coming in is going to have that same type of like automatic feel, because these guys aren't like serviceable shooters. Like, you can't just say like, oh, okay, like, yeah, he can shoot it a little bit. Yeah. No. Braylon Mullins is the best shooter in the class. Darius Adams might be the second best shooter in the class. And the pitch to both of them was, why don't you come here and form the best backcourt duo in the country coming in as freshmen? So they're going to play a little bit together, I think, next year. I think Darius is kind of a dog too. Like, Adam did say that, that's part of the love affair with him, is he needs to put a little meat on his bones, but he's got that competitive fire, as does Braylon. And then, as you saw with Eric's interview, that he's a pro already. Like, he knows what he has to do. He knows what he has to work on. So I think that's the real, like, not to look too far ahead because we're still in season, but it's really fun to watch and really fun to get excited about.
Yeah, the ceiling of this team, of this class, these four players, them coming in together as freshmen, they're modern, like, basketball players. Like, this team, the current iteration of the UConn roster, like, they're a little smaller. They've got each player has something they do well, but there's some holes in their game. Braylon, Jacob, Eric, and Darius, like, these guys each can do a lot on the basketball court. Eric's like, he's not going to be clinging defensively, but he could potentially get there. Like, if he's a 2-year player, they brought Klingen was a 3-star. Eric's a 5 coming in.
Right.
And, like, you take a 7-footer that's already skilled coming into college, that has never played a college game, and try to craft him into like a defensive stopper, but someone that can also shoot from the perimeter as an 18-year-old. Just special capability there. Braylon, like you said, best shooter in the class, like, bar none. By far the best shooter in the class. Lights out, scores effortlessly. And each of these guys is 6'5". Like the size is already there. Capability, these guys can put it in on the deck. Each of them can dribble, pass, shoot, and all of them have positional length, like something that Hurley covets. That's won us national championships the last 2 years, like with different personnel. And those guys, that won the national championship in 22, 23, and then 23, 24, all very versatile players. Everyone could shoot, pass, dish, but they were mature. Those were grown men. These guys can do all of those things as 18-year-olds. So the floor is low, the floor is super high, and the ceiling is even higher.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think the interesting part about all of this is because Adam even mentioned it too, and I asked him. This is not a show about speculating who stays or who goes from the transfer portal perspective, but he did say he expects Danny to be very aggressive in the transfer portal this year too, because to your point, some of those guys were grown men, and guess who two of those grown men were? Tristan Newton, transfer from East Carolina, Cam Spencer, transfer from Rutgers. So it would not surprise me if he goes transfer portaling, as he likes to call it, right? I think he's probably going to go get another veteran point guard, and I think he likely is going to get another. If a wing that we're not expecting to leaves, he may even go after another, scoring wing or a big body to go with Terrace and kind of bang around with Eric to come in, because I don't know if Youssef stays, but I want him to. But if he doesn't, then you got to kind of fill that spot too. So it'll be interesting. I think they go to 15 spots next year too anyway. So I think you can bring in more talent anyway.
Yes.
Yep. So it's going to be a fun year because they're still going to be developing players. I think Solo stays. He's not going anywhere. Yep. He may test the waters on the draft if he keeps scoring 20 points a game the rest of the way, but he's not going to go. No. And he's not transferring. So, we'll see. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there's going to be fast forward to like 2 months from now. Say Yukon doesn't fare well in the national tournament, and that's just going to light a whole new fire under Dan Hurley. He hasn't felt that in 2 years.
Right,
right. If you have, he's been speaking pretty candidly recently, like not calling out players by name in press availabilities, but naming players and saying, we don't have a lot of playmakers on this team. We're smaller. If this team gets bounced in the first or second round of the national tournament in a couple months, that Dan Hurley has the famous and hilarious videos and photos he posts, the last couple of years after winning the national tournament. The day of the portal starting is like the worst day of the year. He ain't going to feel that this year if they get bounced early. Like he's going to dive straight into the transfer portal. You've seen what some of these UConn's won 2 national championships with grown men that they've brought in from other lesser programs and turn them into studs, put them on the wall. Guys like Tristan Newton, Cam Spencer, one of the best players in the history of the program, national championships. You need grown men, guys like that from the transfer portal to kind of just bolster your roster, bring along younger guys, show them how to be professional, learn the ropes. And these 4 guys, they're studs coming in, but they're 18. They're all going to be freshmen. They're not going to be, molded into great players right away. They need someone to show them the ropes. And I think if UConn doesn't fare well, potentially in the national tournament, we might see some like strong aggressiveness in the portal from Hurley.
Without a doubt. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about DePaul on deck and what to expect in that game tomorrow night. Coming up after the break. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, you can even do the coin toss. FanDuel makes it easy to get in the action. You could even do the length of the national anthem, over under. From the thrill of kickoff to the final whistle, live betting is also a big feature that I personally like to do. It's right in the app. It's super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Just bet $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, we're back on Locked On UConn with Dan Meehan, owner and founder of Exit 68, and of course, a co-host with me here on Locked On UConn, and your boy here, Mark Zanetto. This DePaul team is scrappy. I think this XL Center crowd better be ready to rock because this team needs it, man. We need the fans to. We need a bunch of little Reds out there just firing people up. That's just the bottom line. And if you're in the house tomorrow night and you're kind of sitting on your hands, I'm sorry. Get on your feet, get excited. It's a basketball game. You're not watching, a play somewhere or your daughter's recital where you have to be quiet. Like let's get after it a little bit. You don't need to listen. I don't want people to get like banged up like you're a Philly fan and like shoot guns in the in the streets because you won the NFC Championship. But I'd like a little excitement for the two-time national champions. I don't know about you, man. Like that's what I want to. I want to feel it through the television because I won't be there. And I know Gamble is loud, but XL Center sometimes feels like it's pretty dead.
Yeah, it feels like this is that game where they can really galvanize, kind of the fans can get behind this team and just try to, push forward. People smell, Liam McNeeley coming back soon. You've got a tough stretch of the schedule coming up against some of the best teams in the conference. This game, DePaul, this is quite literally the worst team in the Big East. They're 11th out of 11 teams. They don't shoot the ball particularly well. They've got two guys that average in double figures. This is a must-win game. Make no mistake about it. There's been some people online, some chatter all season long that the XL Center crowd hasn't been as where it needs to be and hasn't been where it has been the last few years. So what? It's over. Time to rally behind this team. Get loud. Get lubed up at the bars in Hartford. Do what you got to do to support this squad tomorrow night because we need this one.
Absolutely. You got a prediction for this game? Because we're going to do a shorter segment here. I think people know what this game against DePaul is. There's no insight here. Like this, UConn needs to take care of business whether they have Liam or not.
Yeah, I'm going to go. So this team, just to give a little preview, they average 75 a game. They allow 74. They shoot less than 45% in the college game. That's not too great. They move the ball actually pretty well. They're top 40 in assists per game for teams. They're a veteran squad, so they're a little older, a bunch of juniors and seniors on the roster. So they're not going to be afraid playing UConn sans Liam McNeeley if he doesn't play. But I got UConn winning this one. Let's go. I don't know what the line is. I didn't see a gambling line out yet. I'm going to go ahead and guess. UConn hasn't been covering spreads lately. No. So I'm not sure Vegas is going to make this a double-digit spread. I'm going to guess it's a 8-point spread. I'm going to say UConn wins 80. I'm going to say a high scoring affair, 84-76.
Okay. I think this is another out win. I think the pattern with this team is either slow starts or quick starts, but eventually they get a spurt that either it's a 10-0 run or a 12-0 run that kind of pushes them ahead, or if they were behind, they catch up and then they keep going. I think this DePaul team is a decent three-point shooting team. So if they follow the script, even though they don't have Liam this time, of kind of running DePaul off the three-point line and making them have to shoot with paint touches or try to finish at the rim, I think UConn wins this game by double digits. But if they allow this team to stick around and shoot threes, I think this game could get a little too close for comfort. I don't see why, we would think otherwise. No disrespect to your pick, because you were 100% right on the games they would lose with Liam, and I was wrong on that. But I feel like in this game, I think they still win this game by like 7, maybe 8.
Yeah, for reference, the game Liam got hurt, that score ended 81-68. UConn won by 13 at DePaul. This one's at home, might be a little different, but just to give you a reference point there.
Yeah, I just think that there's too many, like we said, too many ifs with this, especially if Liam doesn't play. There's too many ifs with this team. It's always like, well, if Jay Stu steps up, if Jay Ross steps up, if Ahmad Noel gives them good minutes. We don't have, or even Aiden Mahaney, who had 14 points in his last game and played great. Do we see that Aiden Mahaney again, or do we have to count on Solo giving you 20 and 11 again this year? Again this game, so. I think those things are too much to ask on guys who haven't done it consistently for a year. Solo has been a consistently 14, 15 point scorer. So if we're asking him to now give us 23, 25, that's a tall order. So
Yeah,
I think this.
show me something,
Yeah.
don't mess around. Don't let this one get close like we've seen in a couple of the last few games. We got to beat the teams that we should be beating if we're going to make the tournament. Tough stretch coming up. This DePaul team, they played terrible in the Big East after starting pretty good. They've got 10 wins, which is more than 3 times as many as they had last year. Chris Holton's done a good job kind of revitalizing that program. They're not totally there yet, but it's going to take more than 1 year, but they're a well-coached team. They played Marquette close. They only lost by 2 in overtime in Marquette a few games ago. So this team is capable of playing at a high level if the magic strikes on a certain night. So if Liam doesn't play, I want to see these guys step up, make a statement win at home. Hopefully the crowd gets going and just get a good win under your belt. Don't screw around. Go blow this bad team out by 15 points and give us some confidence. If Liam doesn't play, win this game by 15, get Liam back as we go into the back stretch of the season, and give these fans something to get excited about for this final run.
All right. You heard it here first. One last time.
People better get us now. That's all. You better get us now.
This has been another episode of Locked On UConn, because it's coming. Go Huskies.
Go Huskies.